Robot vacuums are incredibly expensive, but the one I'm holding in my hand is actually incredibly affordable. So my question is this any good at all? So of course we are going to test it, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm a little bit skeptical of this because most robot vacuums, especially at this really cheap price point, aren't very good at obstacle avoidance. So I don't know how well it's gonna perform. We're definitely gonna test that. We're definitely gonna test pickup because that is super important too. And I've got a lot of cats around here and there's constantly hair on the floor. So that's primarily what we're gonna be looking at. Now, OKP is sponsoring this video, but they haven't given me any talking points. They haven't told me what to say. They haven't told me anything is off limits. So we're just gonna test it and see how well this thing does. There's a lot of robots you can get at $1,800, $2,000. This is clearly not gonna perform as well as that, but if you're on a tight budget, that's what I want to know, is this really worth getting? Let's see what comes in the box. Obviously you get the robot. This is the K5 Pro. This is their flagship. This is their newest one. You also get a docking station and it has some kind of sensors in here, so it should be able to find the dock. If you look at the robot itself, you've actually got a pretty big front area here with supposedly some sensors in it. We're going to test that out. Inside, you've got your dust canister over here, and you've got a HEPA filter, and this actually comes with 2 different HEPA filters. Also, it apparently comes with a cat, but you know, the cat is just part and parcel of why you'd buy a robot vacuum. Maybe you got a dog too. And on the bottom, it's pretty simple. You got a couple wheels, you've got an area for the dust to go into, and then you get 4 of these little side brushes here. If my cat will get out of the way. There's the 4th one. We're just going to pop them on actually before we do any vacuuming because that's what we need to do. Saturn loves the brushes. And then you get a mopping pad, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the video. So let's let this thing loose. Now it does come with a fairly basic app that you can use to control it. You can also apparently control it using things like Amazon Alexa and Google Home and so forth. So I'm just gonna hit the clean button here. I've already paired this up. All right, it's off and running. And I'm kind of curious to see how it'll do with obstacle avoidance. It actually already picked up some of the cereal that I left for it. And right now we can see it is heading down my living room. I've put a big obstacle here for it to avoid, but I'm kind of curious to see how it's gonna do when it gets to the end of the room. I haven't done any pre-programming. It hasn't mapped anything out. I'm just following along this vacuum and seeing how it performs in real life. I haven't done any testing before. This is the first time I'm actually testing it, and we're just gonna see how it does. So it does seem to be doing nice patterns on the floor. It's not going across randomly like some of the old school robot vacuums would have done. It does seem to have a direction, so it looks like it's just gonna do parallel lines. And here it's coming up against the first obstacle, which is this little media cabinet over here. There it goes. It's kind of doing its thing. It is kind of doing its thing. So I'm just gonna put a shoe in front of it here, and we're just gonna see what happens. All right, well, it can avoid a shoe. That's pretty good. Now, OKP did say that you should clean up your room beforehand and not leave any cords hanging around, anything like that. But it seems to be doing okay with larger obstacles. I guess those are the sensors in front that are doing their job. So it's got some pretty big brushes here, so you can see it's actually doing a good job of getting along the sides of my couch. And there's a little bit of dirt here that it seems to be picking up pretty effectively. So yeah, it does do some edge cleaning. I would say so far it's doing better than I thought it might. And it does seem to be okay avoiding like pretty big obstacles. Don't know about him, what he's gonna do. Now they say it has a fairly long battery life and should be able to clean a single room pretty easily. I haven't been able to test that out yet, but we're gonna see how that does. Coming up against my tripod here, which would pretty much be, my cat just dropped that off the table, pretty much be like a chair leg. It hasn't hit it yet. Let's see how it does, if it's gonna go back for it. There's sort of no way of directly controlling it. You can't tell it exactly where to go like you can with the more expensive robots, but it seems to be working autonomously pretty effectively. Let's see how it does with the cat. Here's the cat test. It actually is avoiding my cat pretty well, so that's a good thing. Of course, my cat is attacking it. The robot isn't fighting back, so that's probably a good thing. But yeah, you can see it's actually avoiding my cat, so it is It is a little better at sensing objects than I expected, especially for this price point. I laid down some pet hair, some cereal, a little bit of longer hair, and yeah, it seems to be doing a pretty good job actually. I just took the canister out. Let's see what we got. There is quite a bit of dirt and hair and cereal in here, so it did a very good job, surprisingly, of picking up stuff off my hardwood. It does have cliff sensors. Let's see how well it does, if is it gonna fall off my table or not. So we're gonna find out. Oh, nice. So the cliff sensors are in fact working. So if you got a house with some stairs, like I do, I think you might be okay. One thing I want to point out is that it is pretty anti-tangle because there is no brush roll here. So there's really no place for hair to get stuck. That is an advantage. Now, on the other hand, that means it's probably not going to be the best on carpet because it doesn't have a brush roll. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult to get the dirt inside the vacuum. So here is the mopping pad. It's actually pretty clever. It's magnetic. It has two pieces, so it just comes apart like this. And let me show you how to load it up with a mop. So I'm just using a Swiffer mop pad. Let's see how it does. I'm just going to flip this over like this. You could use, I guess, any kind of mopping pad that you want, even old rags potentially. Okay, I think that's it. And then you just clip this right onto the bottom. Let's do some mopping. And look at that. We got ourselves some pretty legitimate mopping. It's not pretty, but it seems to work, and I don't see any reason why you couldn't just use a rag to do this, so you don't really need to deal with consumables. Is it gonna fall off? Is it gonna fall off? No, it stays on. That's pretty good. I'm gonna hit the home button here and see if it actually goes home. It's actually docking. Look at that. Look at that. Wow. Cool. For the money, I think this is actually a pretty good value. I'm fairly impressed with it. If you've got a lot of carpet in your house, this is not the right buy for you. You will not be happy with it. But if you have a lot of hard floors like I do, and you just want to be able to set this thing and forget it and come back, I think it's a pretty good deal. It's not worth $1,800. It doesn't cost anywhere near that. It's not as capable as those robots. But again, for the value that you're getting, I think it's actually pretty decent. Look for any applicable discounts down in the description.